Hello and welcome to the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. I am Daz, AJ is on my left, Neil is on my right. Gentlemen, how are we? 2 weeks in.
Yeah, very good, very good. We're surprised by the wonderful weather the first two Saturdays. I reckon what's happening this week's probably going to be making it very interesting for Saturday number 3, the start of the 2-day games. AJ, you looking forward to the 80 overs?
Yeah.
There's the enthusiasm we know and love from the great man.
Come on.
No, I think it'd be good. It'd be good to see a test of the ability of players. Obviously, we've played a fair bit of one-day cricket in the last few years, so it'd be interesting to see the first couple of weeks. I think of the 2-day stuff, but look, it's going to be good. It's going to be. I'm not going to say it's going to feel normal, but it's going to feel a bit odd, I think, because we've seen so many one-dayers recently, and I've kind of adjusted to it. I think it's been a bit of a breath of fresh air for cricket, to be honest, playing the one-day stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how the clubs go about it, and we've seen some clubs obviously that we thought going to be contending for a flag, sort of sitting at 0 and 2 at the moment.
Haven't quite got going, some of them.
Yeah, and some of the competitions, are sitting there wide open. Also, some there that we probably know that they're going to be there. So I think it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be different for the players because we haven't played the 2-day stuff for a while.
I think so. Let's start with the Provincial League. And we spoke last week, Nilo, about all the away teams that were getting the job done. Yep. Well, it was the home teams this week who went 3 for 4. Sorrento, the only home team letting us down. Come on, AJ, can you sort your mob out, please? That would be nice. Defeated by Baden Powell. Long Island defeating Baxter. Langwarrin starting their year 2 and zip over Red Hill. And Old Peninsula defeating the Pines, AJ. Yeah,
look, to be honest, not really too much of a upset in any of those victories, really, to be honest. We backed Baden Powell, obviously Long Island. We thought we were going to be too strong. Langwarrin at home and Old Peninsula clearly one of the two standout sides. So, look, nothing really stands out in the provincial competition from round 2.
We did think that Langwarrin and Red Hill would be a pretty interesting game, as it turned out. 200, chasing down 200, great effort. And look who it took. Chris Bretain's 95 to get that 200.
We've mentioned, though, that for Red Hill to go to the next step is their bowling. Yes. And obviously they're missing some key players in their bowling stocks at the moment, and they'll only get better. But the thing for mine is that they've posted, I think, 180 and 200 both weeks. So for Red Hill to be up and firing in the batting ranks and then to hopefully make their adjustment in their bowling ranks in the next couple of weeks. I know that Glenn Collette was out on the weekend with Tom's Bucks party, and then they'll get a few more like Brent Martin and the likes back in. So once they do that, I think it'll be a much more rounded Red Hill side. But the good thing for Red Hill is that they've got youngsters standing up at the moment.
Young Jared Clower, what a beauty. He's got as many wickets as anybody, equal leading in the wicket at this stage. Fantastic to see. Well, we all know his father was a beauty going back a few years. So it's great to see another Clower performing well for Red Hill.
And I mentioned before the first show that Glenn Collette sort of spoke about a young fella in Lewis, and he certainly provided in the first 2 weeks. He's hit 3 sixes to win the game in round 1, and then he's come in with a little cameo to get the side up to 200, although they didn't win the game. He's still contributing pretty well there, but I think, like you look at the sides like Old Peninsula, Langwarrin, Baden Powell on the weekend getting on the winners list, but it's the star power that they have that's making sure that they're going to be in the frame for the top 4 moving forward.
It is the anomaly, Baden Powell, aren't they? I mean, they're 3rd in the league for runs and they're equal 2nd for wickets taken, and yet they're 6th on the ladder. So just a quirk there to start the year.
They played Old Peninsula in the first game, and that was pretty tough. And talking about Old Peninsula, Juzzy Grant, he's had a 90 in the first game, and a 5 in the second game. He's just showing his versatility. He's still probably just about the best fielder going around as well.
Yeah, well, there's a big reason why he's won league medals. So, and obviously played, Premier first and also representing Victoria second 11. So, There's a good sign for Old Peninsula that the captain's standing up in the runs and then in the wickets, and I think that's probably where Juzzy will need to stand up for Old Peninsula going into the 2-day stuff. That he's obviously going to do a fair bit of the bowling, probably bowling your 20 overs each week in the 2-day stuff. So if he can continue to pick up wickets, and then you've got the other guys doing a job from the other end, that's where they're going to obviously take their game to another level in the 2-day stuff.
Yeah, they've been very good. What have you had thoughts on Long Island at this point? They've been there and about.
Yeah.
Beat Baxter this week, which we selected. I think they'll be in the battle for quite a while, even though we didn't initially say top 4. But we also did say, I reckon, right near it. They only have to, get one win that we don't anticipate, and they will be in.
Yeah, I think for Long Island, just looking through their side, that they're probably still adjusting to the guys leaving and then bringing the other people into the side. And their batting lineup's probably the thing that's changed a fair bit.
Yep.
Obviously, but I guess when you look at it, their bowling hasn't changed too much, but it has in the terms of that as well, because obviously Tweedle hasn't been there. Like Schimmel and Anderson were there throughout the whole year last year. They've done their job, Kelly as well. But then you sort of look at it on the flip side of things, that when you don't have a Long Island with Andrew Tweedle and I guess there's a couple of other names that come to mind, and then the batting lineup's definitely changed. Andrew Singer out. Not opening, so they've got a couple of new openers in there. Tommy Boxall batted at 5, I think, on the weekend. So
I don't know how long that'll continue for. Van Duke has been useful, a couple of 30s. Be interesting to see what he does in the 80 over game.
And probably they've just sort of, I guess, they're changing their mix, Long Island. So I'm not too. It's almost like I'm not too sure about them at the moment, because we haven't seen enough.
And how they're going to settle down as a team.
When we go through the 2-day stuff, when you've got the guys like Van Duker and you've got Anderson, Schimmel, these guys, Kelly, they're going to come into their own bowling a lot more than 8 overs.
Yes.
And I think their batting probably suits 2-day cricket a little bit more. Sort of the firepower has sort of moved on, that sort of thing, like the explosive batters. I know they got McKenna still there as well, but I just think that the 2-day stuff will probably suit him a bit better, and Tommy Boxall can graft an innings out.
Yeah. Well, let's find out, shall we? Because they take on Baden Powell, that being Long Island, in the first game of round 3, and probably no better test than a side who's, like we said, their ladder position's not reflecting how well they went last week. Yeah,
I think it's obviously probably hard when you come up against the reigning premiers in round 1, although Baden Powell would be upset with dropping that game, because pretty much for about 30 overs of their innings, they looked like they were going to chase it down.
Yeah.
And then they fell in a hole. They lost, I think it was, 7 for 4, something ridiculous, like 7 for 8 or something like that. But
crazy, crash at the end. Yeah.
So I think they'll probably relinquish the opportunity to play a lot more 2-day cricket. And I think their lineup has been a 1-day orientated lineup for a number of years. But when you look through their lineup now, you've got Trav Callum, Reese and Dale Almy. You've also got Craig Entwistle. You've got Bo Anthony still hasn't played yet, so he'll come back in. But their bowling probably looks a bit more suited to bowling a lot more overs. Like Zach Clan can bowl the 15 to 20 overs in a day. You've got Ben Frith that will do the same. But then you've got the guys who probably had to stand up with the ball that weren't the frontline guys that can probably bowl a bit more in the middle overs. They don't have to rely on bowling the hard overs. Reese has sort of probably had to bring himself on in the tough times, and it's worked. Yeah. But at times, he's probably the one that you think we needed to have a bit more firepower with the new ball, and a bit more firepower for Baden Powell and Reese himself to turn to and say, I really need a wicket right now. I'm going to go to Ben Frith, or I'm going to go to Zach Clan.
Throw back to Zach.
It's not, I'm going to have to go to this bowler and think, hopefully he gets me a wicket.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I think they'll relinquish having the 2-day stuff in their
And
bowling lineup.
we'll see a bit more about their spin options too with Christo and Craig Entwistle will probably bowl a little bit in the 80 over game. So that gives them a bit of variety.
They've got 6 to 7 bowlers now that can contribute throughout the whole innings.
Yep.
And we speak about that, the opportunities that guys have had in the one-day cricket, that you've had to have 5 or 6 or 7 even options to bowl your 40 overs. But when you've got the firepower they do up top, but then you've also got 5 or 6 other options to fill the 80 overs, and when you need them, you might only have to turn to Reece, for 3 to 4 overs here and there, but that he's probably going to change the game and take a wicket.
So who wins this game, Neilo?
Yeah, I think Baden Powell. I think they've just got, well, we've mentioned more names, but they seem to have more options and the potential of a number of guys who can win the game for them. And we're not quite sure how Long Island has settled in yet, so we've sort of mentioned that. Got a few blokes who've got starts, but we don't know who's going to go on and make those big innings, which you need somebody in the 80 over game for sure. So I guess we're a bit more confident of Baden Powell doing that.
Do you share that view, AJ?
Yeah, I absolutely share that. I think Baden Powell, they clearly got, I'm going to say almost a settled 11, but they've probably got 13 or 14 guys that will probably come through the side this year. Yeah. But when you go through it, like young Jobe Gardner that came across from Heatherhill, like he's probably got to an age now where he's going to stand up in senior cricket and can do a really good job. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns himself into an opener in the longer formats this year. So they've got options aplenty. Then you've got Dale and Reece Elmy, Trav Callum through the middle. Like they've got options everywhere, and at the back end as well, they've got guys that can be really dangerous from that 65 over mark that have been accustomed to playing one-day cricket. But if you've got guys like Trav and Reece who have set up an innings and you're sort of settling at 220, 230 potentially after 60 or 70 overs, and you've got 10 overs to accelerate. Well, Baden Powell have got that really set up with their list.
Yeah, they do. Let's move on to Baxter and Langwarren, and what an impressive start from Langwarren it's been, Neilo.
Been very good. We saw them the first game, and it was a cracking game they had against Pines, but they look good. Last week it was their, I suppose you could say their stars, Chris Brattain with his 95 not out, Prosser runs and wickets. So their good players do stand up all the time, and that's been the key to it. They generally start the year pretty well. This year, 2-0, looking very, very good. If we look at Baxter, they've been competitive in both games, haven't picked up a win yet, and through the season they're going to just have to turn some of those games where they're competitive into wins. Not sure it'll happen this week. Don't know when it'll happen really, but it will happen a couple of times. They've still got some very dangerous bowlers, Baxter, and you've nominated this all the time with Matajay and Satambi. Again, dominated, got 8 wickets between them. Yeah. But they got 8 wickets. They got 8 for 48 between them, and the team still lost.
Well, they've only taken 10 wickets for the season, AJ, but they've lost all 20 so far. So it's both sides of the ball aren't going their way at the moment, Baxter.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think the key thing is that the 80 over games, indicates that Yoey's going to have a big role to play. And potentially bowl his 30 overs. And to be honest, if I'm the captain of Baxter and I'm Dan Warwick, I'm giving him the ball as early as I can, because he's probably and arguably the best spinner in the competition, and he continually picks up wickets. He continually bowls tight. So I think for Baxter this year, without DI, without some other guys that have sort of filtered out through their age, got a lot of young kids. Will Borthwick is coming up through the ranks, and he's been good.
They opened the batting with him, which was interesting to see. I wonder if they'll stick with that for most of the year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, especially in the 2-day stuff. But I think you've got to use Yoey and Chamika as your 1 and 2 woods in your bowling. They need to bowl as much as they can, because otherwise, unfortunately, I think games may get away from them. in time. But I think just their batting just looks a little bit light on, especially if Dan and
Dan missed out Saturday and bang all out. So
and if
120.
The thing between Baxter being really competitive is that Dan and Todd Quinn, I think they've both like Toddy's got he got a 15. I think he might have got a
35 in the second week. Yeah.
For Baxter to take that extra step, those guys need to be posting 50 plus
every single week. That puts a lot of pressure on them. So we'll find out a bit more about the Baxter middle order as these 2 days progress, but they haven't shown a great deal yet.
Yeah, and the problem with tipping them in this game is you need to see it before I think you can have faith in them.
Yeah,
Is that why?
I think you're right.
Is Lang Warren the way to go here? Surely.
Yeah. I'm sticking with Lang Warren. I think their depth is it outweighs Baxter at the moment, and it's probably a point now where Baxter probably relied on their older guys for a number of years. And the last 2 years, or even last year, it started turning. And I think it's completely turned now that, Dan's probably still their most important player, but in terms of the batting side, but it's coming down to guys like Yowie and Borthwick and these sort of guys that need to stand up and take the club forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with Langy in this one.
Beautiful. I like it. Let's go to Red Hill versus Pines. We talked a little bit about Red Hill so far. The Pines, it looks like after last week's result, Neil, they're really going to rue that round 1 loss to Lang Warren.
Yeah, well, they were pretty close the second week too, weren't they? 127. They made Old Peninsula really work for it, and I think their bowling is good. We're a bit concerned about their batting coming in this year with Dimmer not being there and a couple other guys missing. But they're going to have to make 170, 180 on a consistent basis. Their bowling is good. How they're going to go against Red Hill, that's going to be interesting because the Red Hill, their batting's their strength.
And Pines' bowling.
Their bowling's their strength. So
they've played the top 2 sides and taken 14 wickets. So
I think
it's a decent start.
Yeah, I reckon Red Hill don't mind chasing, and I reckon Pines like to set a target.
Yeah, well, I think
I don't know whether it'll work out that way, but it'll be really interesting.
I think it
Now
does.
that you've said that, it definitely won't.
It won't now. That's
not
it.
at all.
It comes down to Paddy Jackson with the ball. I think if he can, and then he's very capable of taking 6, 7 for.
Yep.
Most weeks he's going to make the batters play majority of his balls, and I think for them, it's almost a bit like a Baxter situation that Pines have always had a pretty well-rounded squad.
Yep.
You look through the names in the last few years and
you see Jackson.
You see, you would always see Jackson. You would see
Jackson,
Humphrey.
Jackson,
pretty
Jackson,
much. Yeah. But you've had Ramsdale. You've had guys like
the Humphreys
Lanau.
now.
You've had Lawrence, and they continue to put the whites on year in, year out. But now, losing those sort of experienced guys, it's falling to the younger Jacksons. It's falling to Grant Humphrey has got his opportunity. You've got the keeper Harley Pearce-Steeling's brother.
Yep.
I think it's
Jake.
Jack. Yeah. So
one man.
So like he's getting an opportunity. These sort of older guys like Chico and Rama.
He's been their leading run scorer, Chico, at the moment.
Oh yeah. Well.
And he'll make runs.
Exactly.
He'll make runs.
He's always going to do that. But it's the guys who have now played 2 to 3 years of first 11 cricket that have got to take that next step of playing, but now contributing week in, week out. It doesn't have to be making 50, to 100 every week, but it's
part of a useful partnership.
Times,
partnership.
Getting a partnership. If you've got someone that is set at the other end, you've got to rotate the strike and get them back on strike. You can't get bogged down.
Yeah.
It's starting to craft your game from how do we say it? It's from not being given the opportunity to play first 11, but you've got to go to now earning your spot week in, week out, and standing up against the the guys who have done it, for 5 to 10 years, and I think like if they can get partnerships together, that's their key thing. If they can get batting partnerships together, their bowling's going to take care of itself, but it's the batting partnerships that they need to work on. And even if it's 10 partnerships of 20. They're still going to get 200, and we know that their bowling attack is capable of bowling sides out for well under 200.
Last week, Red Hill have only taken 11 wickets as well. So.
Well, that's true. That's true, and they've got work to do. They've got to get their best 5 bowlers in the team. And I'm sure they'll have a slightly different bowling lineup this week compared to last week. But just the other observation I was going to make: Pines only batted for 28 overs last week for that 127, and almost worried Old Peninsula, had 7 down, got within 4 runs of Langwarrin. So they've played handy cricket, but this will be the big test, batting the 80 overs. That'll be the big test. I'm going to lean towards Red Hill because I think they'll do a lot better batting for the 80 overs. But you can't have massive confidence, can you? In this game, it's an interesting game.
Declan Jackson, we saw. For the Pines, I love a left-handed blocker. Does dazzling, and he's got that in spades. So if he sticks around for a while and can be an anchor, they give themselves a chance. But unfortunately, the local boys are going to have to be a bit of a trader this week, and I've probably got to go with Red Hill as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Red Hill up at the chip, and I think could be worrying signs for Pines that Simon Dart's got his eye in, and now he's got 80 overs to bat, boys.
Yeah, extraordinary. And we finish, AJ, with your local Sorrento taking on Old Peninsula, 3rd v 1st. I know it's only 3 rounds in, but we love a semi-top-of-the-table clash.
Last year's grand final replay.
It is. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Premier Cricket. Obviously, the weather's not looking too good, but they probably won't be able to afford their players to play because it's a 2-dayer. So
that's true. You can't. You're gambling on the next week.
Yeah. So I guess from that, Sorrento might lose a couple. I know that they had Wilson from Dandenong and also Matt Rulak from Casey play on the weekend. So there's automatically 2 out. I know Mitch Bench came back and played in the 2s for his first game of the year and made 113. So I dare say he comes straight back in.
He's right for the rest of the year as far as we know, Bench.
I think so. I think he might have just missed that first week. I'm not
used to October the 1st playing cricket, no.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what was going on there. But for mine, their bowling is obviously going to rely on 2 people, Jake Wood and Lee Jansen in the longer formats. So they're going to have to probably be bowling
a lot of overs.
Yeah, they're going to have to bowl at least 60 out of the 80 for mine for them to be competitive against Old Peninsula. And if they are competitive, it's on the back of those 2 taking a bag of wickets each, and that they're going to have to because Peninsula have got guys in form. Dylan O'Malley, he's had a pretty good record against Toronto, getting off the flyers and setting them up, and then guys like Juzzy Grant and Wade Palzer, Tom LeBroy, they've been able to bat on the back of that. So I think for mine, I think Old Peninsula will be too strong, and their bowling, Old Peninsula, suits 2-day cricket.
It does, yeah.
They have taken 17 wickets, equal second in the league so far, Sorrento. So they haven't done a whole lot wrong in the first fortnight.
No, they had a very comfortable win the first round. They were 1 down. I think they got the runs, or made the runs. I don't know whether got the runs is a good thing to say, Daz. You're in charge here. Old Peninsula looking very strong. Probably are favoured. Had a convincing win in the grand final. I think they'll even win by a little more in this game. So I think a good win to Old Peninsula is the way I see this one. They look very, very strong at this time of the year.
No disagreement so far. Has flattened me a little bit, but we're going to take a little bit of a break.
We'll
come back with the Peninsula Division. This is the MPCA show brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match because we live and breathe batteries. Those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyre Road, Mornington.
Hello, I'm Roy Sanderson from RJ Sanderson and Associates. We have created a 10-step roadmap to recovery for businesses. To inquire or get a copy, go to our website rjsanderson.com.au.
A station sponsor.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
MPCA show. Thank you to Bendigo Bank. Let's get into the Peninsula Division. Boys, we start with Somerville defeated by Heather Hill. Seaford Tigers got the job done over Flinders, the only home team to win. I don't know what's going on at these away grounds, but it's extraordinary. Dramana were defeated by Mornington, which made the mayor of Mornington extremely happy.
Yes.
Our man Vossi, and the Ducks, of course, went down to Mount Eliza. AJ, any surprises? Any tips wrong that leap off the page for you?
Yeah, I went Somerville, and it looked like they were probably going to get over the line, only chasing 120, but they fell 4 runs short. So they're 0-2, which is a surprise.
I noticed he was flat now, man.
Yeah.
I now know why.
He shattered.
Yeah, he
I
was.
was flat with Flinders because I thought they'd back up their round 1 performance, but that didn't happen. Coming up against the good Seaford Tigers, who Neil, you're very adamant they're going to be a good side, and it looks probably that way. I
will mention though, in that game, Kane Hawkins wasn't playing for Flinders, and that makes a big difference. One of the more experienced players, and I mean he's the sort of bloke who can turn the game or win the game.
Well, he takes it from 120 to 180.
He could, and all of a sudden, you've got a few more runs to play with. It might just change the dynamic of the game.
Yeah, obviously Mornington had a good win. Great to see Bryce McGain back and picking up a couple of wickets at, 50 years of age, and hadn't played for 29 years for Mornington. I think it's just great for the MPCA to have an ex-Test player playing, but also for Bryce to come back to his home club and be able to give back for all the times that he's obviously grown up at Mornington. So it's a
2 for 17 off 8. Very tidy.
The ball was still fizzing. I can promise you that. It would have been.
I'm sure Michael Voss would have been fizzing when he went down and watched. And
on the fizz, as he would say.
Yeah, he would have been pretty happy.
Absolutely
look, he's probably followed him home again. He does it a lot. Yeah.
Interesting.
He is in love with Bryce McGain. That's all I'll say.
He's got a few love childs, the great Michael Voss. But
he could make his own 11, I reckon, our man Vossi. We hope he's well.
Mount Eliza, pretty convincing winners against Murdoch there that we thought probably would have been a bit tighter contest, but I certainly backed Mount Eliza in that one.
Yeah, and the disappointing thing from Murdoch, they were 2 for 70 and bang, all out for 113. So very, very disappointing. good performance by Mount Eliza, and the two Sri Lankans playing really well again. They've opened up. It'd be interesting to see what happens if they, in an 80 over game, whether they can set a big partnership again, or if they lost an early wicket, what sort of recovery they can do. That'll be the questions we'll find from Mount Eliza over the next month or so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's get into the round 3 games. Well, the first half of round 3. We start with Heather Hill and Seaford Tigers, Nilo. 1v2.
What an absolute cracker. 2 undefeated sides. You can make a case for either way. I'm going to stick with being bullish about the Tigers. They're doing a lot of things right, and wouldn't surprise me if they do get up. Heather Hill look really, really strong all the way through, batting, bowling, the whole works, and have done well in a couple of tight games. But Tigers actually see themselves as an 80 over team. They feel
that's frightening.
They feel they will play better cricket in the 80 overs. And when I spoke to Dave James in the lead up to the start of the season, he was definitely saying, yeah, look, we did well to make the 4 last year on the 40 overs, but we see ourselves as an 80 over team.
Well,
so I'm leaning towards them at the moment. They're in good form. And I don't know how we go on away teams and home teams, but I'll go with the away team myself.
Yeah, no, it seems like the good option in a couple of these
Gardner
divisions.
going really, really well for them too, I reckon. He's very good. And for their bowling, Max Carroll and Jake Harrington. Jake Harrington cleaned up the tail for them on Saturday. I reckon they look very good, and just keep an eye on them. I reckon they'll be a very strong prospect in this division.
And they've lost 8 wickets in 2 games.
Yep.
So suited to the 80 over game, that they've climatised themselves well in the 40 over game, AJ, because they're putting a huge price on their wicket.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to stick with Heather Hill in this one.
That's
obviously.
It's a party for Daz. When you
you love
disagree,
that.
let me
You
tell
love
you.
it.
I think the inclusion of Adi Hussain last week completely changes their dynamic in their bowling outfit. I think he'll lift the cog this week. Obviously, he's had a bit of a rivalry with Mackenzie Gardner on the social media at times there. So it's fair to say I think Adi will lift for that one. And to be honest, he tells the story that he's got Labuschagne out, he's got certain people out over in England and things like that. And
He's still bowling at 140
And
clicks,
I'm sure he'll be listening to this, but I think, he'll certainly lift and he'll want to take that one, Neil. But I think Heather Hill at home, great win on the weekend to defend 120 against Somerville.
Yeah.
So
they are a better side than the numbers showed
absolutely.
there.
So they go back home. They got a great bowling outfit, but their batting looks a lot stronger this year with Levi McLaughlin-Dore coming in there through the middle, and you got Christian Miller and these sort of guys that on the Heather Hill ground can be quite explosive. So I think Heather Hill at home.
They've lost the second most wickets, Heather Hill, so far. So they'll want to dig in and, like we say, put a big price on their wicket if they're going to get the job done. But I'm loving the disagreement in the room so far. Let's go to Flinders and Germana. Flinders equal second least amount of wickets. They've only taken 7 so far, but they've scored the most runs in the competition. So if it works for you, good luck to Flinders. But they're currently sitting 6th, AJ, and this is a big game.
I think that's where their problem lies, Flinders, this year, is that they've probably got 3 to 4 outstanding bats, and then they've probably got 1 or 2 outstanding bowlers, and then it sort of doesn't fall away, but it's probably the quality or the experience of first 11 cricket's probably not there as yet. So they'll need to obviously rely on those certain guys to stand up. And as you mentioned, Kane Hawkins not playing last week, so it did create a different dynamic in the batting lineup, and also not having him there with the ball at times as well. But it'll be an interesting one. That game's at Flinders. I'm sure that'll get moved because there's no chance.
It'll be pretty wet given the way it's been over the first few weeks. Yeah.
But Germana have surprised, I think, to be honest, losing sort of Jack Fowler, Ben Brittain. I didn't sort of see how their lineup was going to...
They recruited well?
Yeah, they have. I just didn't know how it was going to fit with their bowling and things like that. But Kieran Vogel's been a standout as well.
In fact, it was interesting last week because with him missing out and Fowler missing out, all of a sudden the pressure was on. They only got the 146, which wasn't enough against Mornington. You wouldn't see Kieran Vocal miss out twice in a row normally.
Not normally, no, but I guess it only takes one ball for...
It does. And I believe Jai might be back playing for them, the spinner, so they'll have their two spinners.
Yeah.
Willis, the Englishman, is... They felt he could bat. He made 50-odd. But they also have now realised he's a very handy medium-pace bowler, just wobbles it around a bit. So he's slotted in nicely, and Wade Symes is getting to bowl this year. I'm leaning towards Dramana on this one because I think their bowling is probably stronger than Flinders, and you'd probably look at the numbers there, and you'd see how many wickets Flinders have got, and they've got almost the least.
Yeah, exactly right. But I'm just stunned that an Englishman can wobble the ball a bit, AJ. It's
wind, I think. Oh,
I
think
the
cold conditions.
I think they just learned that when the clouds come out, which is always
honest,
in England.
Yeah, when they come out here, you either get the little wobblers or you get an off spinner or a keeper.
Yeah.
So, no, I agree with you, Neil, on that one. I think Jemana will just be too strong in the 2-day stuff, and Kieran can bat for a long time. And I just think, like you said, their bowling probably just stands up a little bit deeper than Flinders does at the moment.
Mind you, if Hawkins and Gove get going again, it could be 280 on the board, and that's not easy to chase.
Yeah.
But it's extraordinary how well-rounded your team has got to be. So we know it's a batsman's game, but the two equal wicket takers in the competition are currently first and second, whereas the two leading run scorers in the comp are third and second last. It really is all about the entire 11, and hopefully you're not having to carry anyone in the team. If this wants to load for me, that would be fantastic. But we move on to Mornington and Mount Eliza. AJ, the Mayor of Mornington will be listening, so I wonder if you're going to go with them.
So this will be our Bendigo Bank match of the day in week 2.
Week 2, we think it'll be a cracker way to finish things off.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mornington, Mount Eliza, they probably haven't played for a couple of years now since Mornington went down. Mount Eliza obviously went down last year. So
it used to be a magnificent rivalry. Went on to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
I'm looking forward to it in day 2. I think this could be set up to be a cracking
pretty interesting
game because
could be a bit of spice as well with that rivalry too.
I just think they're both probably on a similar path. I think they're probably Mornington, are probably a bit younger in terms of their talent, but I think the guys at Mount Eliza that have done it for a number of years, like Tommy Barron, Nick Barron, so their strength, Mount Eliza, is going to be their bowling.
Mornington's strength is their batting, I believe, too.
Yeah, but having Bryce McGain there, and
that helps.
He's obviously, if he plays this week, he's going to bowl 20 plus overs, surely.
Yeah.
So that
unless he bowls them all out in the meantime.
So that creates a bit more of a talking point for Mornington's bowling. So he's going to be the key cog in their bowling in an 80-over game. So,
I think not only that, but if Bryce bowling well, that helps the other bowlers a bit too.
Well, it takes the pressure off them.
It does.
You know that you've got a guy that's played Test cricket.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Realistically, he's going to be the leader of the pack.
Yeah.
And he'll want to be that.
Yep.
So the guys like we spoke of, the younger, and their bowling's transitioned as well in the last few years. Obviously, you don't see the names of Heeb, Foon, Popov anymore.
They were the three.
So you've got the younger guys coming through. But I just think for Mount Eliza to win, they need to bowl first. That's
an interesting thought. Yeah, I guess.
Is that a polite way of saying you disagree?
No. I wasn't coming at it from that point of view. I was just thinking that Mornington have got to be able to break that partnership of Kaditha Waku, I've pronounced that one wrongly, and Rashia Partha. They've got to be able to break that one because they've been batting very well for them and put a bit of pressure on the middle order who haven't had much hitting yet. I don't know whether Moon's going to be able to do that or whether they bring Bryce in early to break it. I don't know, but that's going to be a key part of the game, I think, is whether they can get a couple of early wickets. If Mornington can get a couple of early wickets against Mount Eliza, I'm just going to go for Mount Eliza, but that's what Mornington need to do, I think, a couple of early wickets.
Well, they're third in runs and wickets at the moment, Mornington, so a pretty consistent start.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
It is a
I
hard
actually
one.
don't really know which way I'm going to go.
So, yeah, if in doubt, disagree. Come on.
Oh,
You can make a case either way.
this is.
plucked one.
We are on a time
I
limit
know,
too,
but
guys.
this is seriously hard because I think it's going to come down to the coin toss.
Yeah.
I honestly do, because we know that Mount Eliza rely heavily on Tom Barron to bowl 30-plus overs in a two-day game.
Yep.
And he bowls his 30 overs for probably 45 runs at a max. So if Mount Eliza do bowl first and he's only conceding 45 from one end, then you've got guys that are rotating through the other end, and you know he's going to pick up, 3 wickets at a minimum.
Will Moynton be patient enough? Zach did really well last week, 65 not out, something we mentioned they needed to do. No good just getting 25 and 30 each
The difference
time.
is
Not only Zach, all the batsmen.
The difference
Tommy
is the
Penny,
red ball.
Smalley.
True. It's a complete different thing. We know that you face a couple of overs with the white ball, but then with the red ball, and it looks like we're going to probably have some overcast conditions. This really does suit the Mount Eliza bowling.
So, Neil,
I'm going to go Mount Eliza.
Oh, so we've both just gone Mount Eliza in the end, but we weren't completely confident in what we said?
No, I just
to agree with you.
Yeah, I know.
I just think it's going to be. It's not the game that's going to stand out in front of people's eyes in terms of like a Baden Powell Old Peninsula, but I just think that the rivalry and the lineups probably make it a really interesting game.
And these two might end up fighting for fourth spot.
And if you are close to Alexandra Park, check it out.
Get
If
in
the
there.
weather permits, of course. Let's finish with Somerville and Murdoch, Nilo.
This is the one we're looking at.
this is the
Saturday's game.
Bendigo Bank match of the day. Somerville versus Murdoch at Somerville.
Well, Murdoch have just been, as I mentioned, lost, or were 2 for 70 and crumbled to be all out for 113 last week. Probably haven't had their best side in. I know Reece Corday, for instance, didn't play last week. If they get their best 11, they'll be a bit more competitive. I can't actually see them beating Somerville, though. Yes, they've lost both games, but they played some good cricket. They posted 230 the week before and got within 4 runs of Heatherhill. So they've played a couple of good sides, played some good cricket. In fact, a little bit of a chat that we had with Jason Nagel. He reckons they played 120 overs of really good cricket, but they've fallen away for 10 or 12 overs each week, and that's where they've fallen down so far. I think they'll be better. They rely a bit on Alpy. He's a great player, and for the camera's point of view, I hope Somerville bat and Alpy gets out there, because he's a cracker and he's a really strong player. Jack Kennedy dominated again, 6 for. Ever since he's gone to bowling slow stuff, he's been just about their key bowler, I think.
Well, this will be the Jack Kennedy Cup this weekend, so I'm sure he'll turn it on. And like you said, 6 for on the weekend. I can't see Somerville dropping to 0 and 3. I think Murdoch's sort of looking at their team and where they've been strong is probably their one-day sort of cricket. Like they're aggressive stroke players naturally. So I thought they probably might have snuck one victory out of the opening game, and they haven't.
Although the last year they knocked off Somerville twice, and I think the year before they got them as well.
Yeah, so
that's the other thing.
That's the interesting thing. Yeah. I don't see Somerville losing this one.
They've lost the most wickets. This is a Daz stat for you. They've lost the most wickets and taken the least wickets.
There you go. So things aren't going too well, is what you're telling me, Nilo.
They haven't hit a vein of rare form yet, Murdoch. So on that basis, Somerville have done a bit more in the lead-up games.
I like the diplomacy of that answer, Nilo. You've done beautifully there. But leading us into our break is going to be a chat with Brenton Taylor from Balnarring to talk about Luke Hewitt. So enjoy that clip. We'll take a break and we'll come back with the District Division. This is the MPCA Cricket Show, brought to you by Bendigo Bank.
And I'm talking to Brenton Taylor from Balnarring. Gee, in the past, Brenton, it's been the skipper. You've had all these extra roles, but you've got a new coach, a new captain, Luke Hewitt. You brought his brother with him. How are they settling into the club?
Yeah, it's been a bit different this year. I just get to just turn up to cricket and focus on batting and bowling. So it's been nice. They've been a huge addition to the club already, and they've settled in really well, those two fellas, and they've just added a high level of class about what those two guys do to our side, and they're both going really well at the moment.
Now, I guess people listening will be interested in how you managed to jag Lukey along as skipper and coach. Who was the fella who did all the back work there?
Yeah, it took a pair of work through the off season. I suppose we started towards the end of last season, getting a team of guys together to go out and see who was available, and Mark Wallace sort of headed that up mainly. With myself and Jackson Hanna, we chipped in where we were needed, and we were lucky enough to get the opportunity to have a chat to a few guys. Luke and Jake included, and they were pretty impressed with where sort of the club was aiming to be heading from this year, and we were stoked to get them on board, plus bring in a couple of other guys that were able to as well. So it turned out to be quite a good off season, picking up a few good recruits, that's for sure.
Just having Luke there, what's it done to some of the younger guys? I'll talk about them specifically later, but just in general and the atmosphere around Balnarring at the moment.
Yeah, he's been awesome with the younger guys. He's being a school teacher is a great communicator, and the younger guys that we got down at the club, they're just so keen to listen and learn and develop, and to be getting, be listening to sort of Luke, and then Dave McLean's also on board with us in a coaching capacity as well. So to have those two guys, for the young guys to really get their cricket knowledge and just tweak a few things in their games, I don't think I could find two better people, to be honest, on the peninsula to be bringing these young kids through their cricket careers.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65 LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match, because we live and breathe batteries, those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyre Road, Mornington.
Hello, I'm Roy Sanderson from RJ Sanderson and Associates. We have created a 10-step roadmap to recovery for businesses. To inquire or get a copy, go to our website rjsanderson.com.au.
A station sponsor.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
MPCA Cricket Show brought to you by Bendigo Bank. We're into the District Division, and let's start with the results recap. We've got Delacombe Park defeating Hastings, Seaford defeated by Carrum Downs. We were there, boys.
What a rip of a game.
Yeah, we'll talk about that game in a bit more detail in just a sec. Rosebud defeating Crib Point, and Main Ridge and Carrum, they didn't really get close to a start with that game. Rained out, AJ, but we'll start with the game that we were there for. Seaford and Carrum Downs by drinks. We thought we're all going to be owned by 4. It's going to be an extraordinary short day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Seaford got on a roll, and then it was one man from Carrum Downs who got the job done.
5 for 50 Seaford were at drinks, and getting up to the score that they did.
173.
Yeah. So they were able to get up. You know, we were saying around that 180 was probably par at the start of the day, and to be honest, and then it sort of swung back into Seaford's grasp when they took a few early wickets. And Carrum started losing a few wickets as well, but Brad Lockhart was sensational. I think a couple of things that I sort of took out of the game and noticed was that I think a few clubs have sort of been found out with bowling their best bowlers straight up at the start.
Not having much up their sleeve for the end.
I think, we've seen a few of the games now, especially on the weekend. Once the guys bowled out, and I know that they were trying to take early wickets and do that, but they just needed a bit more depth at the back end.
Yeah, well, the momentum in a couple of partnerships for Seaford was what essentially got them over the line. They were 5 for 43. And then I think they were, at one point, before they lost a couple of wickets in a row, I think they were 6 for 130 odd. So they were just able to get a score up. It ultimately didn't matter in the end for Carrum Downs, but I agree with you. If we get to a final series and in your 5th bowler is still a weak point, you're still going to need that depth and that well-roundedness.
I thought it happened in Seaford's bowling innings as well, because Wilson bowled really well at the top, and he took a few early wickets, and he was...
He was very good.
He was very economical, but I thought as a leader that he needed to probably bowl a bit more through that middle period as well, and it was just left to 2 fewer guys, and they just didn't have the options at the end. And to be honest, Brad Lockhart was once he was set, he was gifted runs.
Oh, yeah, he was. And then
it snuck up on us, didn't it? I think
we said, hey,
he's on 75.
He's on
and
70.
I went, what? Are you sure? And then he hit, I think, like 3 sixes in a 9-ball period, and then we just went,
that's it.
He's on
Game's
75.
Over.
Absolutely.
Look, I think Jacob Bardwell was clearly injured. He had to have been batting at 11.
Yep.
Didn't get the ball much. Oh, and Ryan McQueen's had a side strain.
Yeah. But when...
so he couldn't bowl, really.
That over that Lockhart was able to hit 3 sixes, like nothing changed. They were basically
Except each 6 went a little further than the first one.
It was basically just 3 of the same balls and just said...
And put in the same spot.
Just hit me. Yeah. And that ground was clearly not big enough for a guy that was set. And that was probably the thing that I noticed in the bowling innings. That was I think the cricket smarts probably weren't there. Yes, it's early in the season. Yes, both sides probably missed key players. And obviously, Carrum Downs missed a few key players in their bowling lineup. Seaford just probably missed a few tricks with the bowling side of things, and unfortunately, it got away from them. They just couldn't rein it back.
Yeah, Johnson and probably Deal come back into that Carrum Downs side at some point, and for Seaford, that they've had 1 or 2 guys who played a bit last year, but I don't think everyone's in top form just yet.
No.
and it'd be interesting to see how they set themselves up for the 80 over games, whether they still go for Pagini in the middle or whether they bring him up the order and have a dash early, or how they set themselves up. I think will be interesting to have a look at that.
Yeah, are you surprised that he's sort of not opened?
Yeah, a little bit. He's done a fair bit of opening in the 40 over games. I suppose it's hard to remember the 80 over games, it's so long ago, but it'll be interesting to see how they set that up. And a great effort by Rosebud, and Kane Donald's, 270s in a row, I think is the leading run scorer. So well done there to Rosebud. And Cribb would have been disappointed. They lost 5 for 7 at the end. They had overs left. They could have been a bit closer, but they never really looked like getting to 214.
A bit of England on Australian soil a bit.
And I think Sean Foster clearly rang up on Friday night and just said, let's have a few cold ones instead of playing. So
and Mainridge said, "Oh, we'll do that."
The Foster Cup was shared between both sides. But
Absolutely.
let's get into this week's.
Which does make the ladder stats kind of disproportionate, so we won't maybe focus on them all that much. Let's go to Hastings versus Seaford. I mean, Seaford are going to look to bounce back, and I'm claiming myself as maybe the number 3 ticket holder at Hastings because I won't tear down the good people that work there, but this is going to be a return to form for Seaford, it looks like, AJ.
Yeah, I think Seaford will be too strong, and unfortunately it'd be probably a bigger task to Hastings to bat 80 overs, and it's interesting to see how they go about it, but I think Seaford, too strong.
And Hastings, their bowling struggling too, only the 6 wickets taken. Batting, it'll be interesting to see. It's good to see young Tommy Finn get 60-odd. Rumbold's had a couple of 30s for them. But, let's see what happens with that 80 overs. I'd be thinking Seaford have had one win, and they played enough good cricket last week.
Yeah.
You know, they had their nose in front a few times against a good team. You can see them having a strong win here. Whether it ends up with second innings and all those sorts of things, only time will tell, and weather might play a factor, but it's hard to go against Seaford in this game.
Yeah, Hastings have taken taken the same amount of wickets, as Carrum, and Carrum have played one less game. Probably tells you where their bowling is at more than anything. Let's go to Carrum Downs versus Rosebud, and I believe this game's going to be a pretty interesting one, AJ. Rosebud at the moment are going beautifully. Equal second for runs, 14 wickets so far, which ranks them third in the competition. So they've started the year pretty well, and Carrum Downs got themselves into form like we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a cracker. And you know how I mentioned that I'd tip Carrum Downs every week?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Will you?
Oh.
I'm going to back Rosebud.
Oh! Now, Nilo, here's what's going to happen, okay? Let's fast forward time just a fraction. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you for the sound effect. And let's say Rosebud win.
Yep.
How on earth did he? No. That is a way to go.
Oh, that's one way.
But because he's going to come in and he's going to be strutting around our man. Let's be honest. He doesn't hide the swagger. No. We love that about him.
Yep.
But we heard the lack of conviction and confidence in his voice just then. Are you with me? That did not sound confident at all. So I just want to keep an eye on the confidence.
If he's successful, in hindsight, he'll be saying he was very confident.
Yeah, if we walk in and Rosebud have made 280 or something, he's thinking, I'm on a good thing here, or Carrum Downs been bowled out for 140, we are going to remember, mate, that your convictions were low.
I'll give you the reasons why.
Please do.
Good.
We've seen Carrum Downs fail with the bat in round one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They chased down 170 on the weekend, 5 down, but if it wasn't for Brad Lockhart, then
they wouldn't have got it.
that was, they weren't very convincing otherwise. And I think with Paddy Nagle, Ash Nagle, Michael Claven, Jared Hicks, I think their bowling is well and truly set up to be a 2-day bowling outfit. Yep. And I think they can do some early damage, and it really puts Carrum Downs on the back foot. And I just think that is why they will get over the line.
Gordon Waterfall hasn't really worried anyone with the bat this year. He's a better bat than that. If we don't know whether Johnson's going to be in the side or not, but there's a lot of good bats there. O'Driscoll's another one. I still think they've got a bit more. They probably a better team at home too, Carrum Downs. I think they've got a well-rounded game. They've got a couple of very good players in it. I agree with what you're saying about that bowling lineup from Rosebud, but I'm still going to lean towards Carrum Downs in this one. It will be a very interesting game, I'd say. If you looked at it after the first week, when they both lost, but now they've both hit a bit of form.
I think Rosebud's loss in round 1 wasn't as bad as what Karen Downs was.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. Yeah,
it was quite a good game with Karam, and I just think that we know what Paddy Nagel and these guys have done, and ultra consistent in a 2-day game, and I just think that with the red ball, it's a different kettle of fish.
And you reckon your mate Billy Quigley will be playing this week?
Haven't heard.
Oh, okay.
But
it'd be worth 3 votes if he did.
If he comes in, well, he really strengthens their
hopefully
their
for
batting.
more than the season.
He
would.
He might not bowl a lot to start with his knee injury.
Well, that's true.
But if he's there batting, then
that would help.
He slots in at 3. So
I like for Rosebud the fact that Hazy starting to find a bit of form, because he had a shocker last year and he was a key player the year before when they won the flag and went up. So him and Donald together, if they got Quigley as well, just a bit of extra strength in the batting. Not quite sure about Rosebud's batting as much. That's another reason I'm leaning just towards Karam Downs. I think it'll be a good game.
I'll tell you what though, mark your calendars for a fortnight's time, because one of these two gentlemen is going to be as flat as a biscuit. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's go to Crib Point and Karam. It's going to be pretty hard to judge Karam at the moment, AJ, given they've only played the one game. But Crib Point probably haven't got the results that they were after, of course. But they've got a chance here to do something nice. They've taken a few wickets. They've scored over 300 runs in their first 2 games, which is usually a sign of a decent start. They just haven't got the wins on the board.
Yeah, you're right. They've been a lot better than the 7th position that they sit in at the moment, Crib Point, and it's good to see, because they've been a provincial club for a number of years, and then they've obviously filtered down, unfortunately, down the grades. But I think with the structure they've got in place now and the guys they've got around, they're a much better outfit. But I just think Karam will be too strong.
Well, they've had a couple of new players come in at Crib, but we haven't seen them on the park yet. But they had 3 or 4 recruits. They might be due to come in now. I'm not quite sure, but I was thinking that it might look be a bit of a new look Crib Point, but it's been more like last year's team than a fresher team. So I'm going to go with Karam in this one, and I don't know whether they'll play down at Cribby. It was pretty soft just a week or so ago. Their batting can be brittle. Losing 5 for 7 is an example of that. They've still got some good players, and good to see Davo get a few runs. I think Karam might have more guys who can dominate the game. Yeah. And the fact that they won the half means nothing because of the washout. But I'm going to go with Karam on this one over Crib.
Back to the usual agreements from the 2 boys, which we like. Let's finish with the other team that got washed out. That's Main Ridge. They're going to travel to Delacombe Park, who have started their season beautifully, AJ. Couldn't have asked for much more.
Yeah, they have. They've been superb in round 1, and then obviously again last week playing Hastings. I think that it will be the reason why they'll get over Main Ridge at home. I think they'll be too strong. We've got I think that the younger kids have been given opportunities over the last few years, especially like Flynn Walker as well. So he's starting to stand up, and I think with their older sort of guys, Ash Walker, you got Johnny Guthrie,
Ben Bradley Bridge. Put him in the older category, do we?
Yeah,
I think we can.
Joel Malcolm. So I think they'll be too strong.
And given the latter disproportion we were talking about before, Nilo, you'll know more about the history than
me.
Top
2 teams.
When do you think the last time the top 2 teams had a run differential of 268?
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. I don't know.
Extraordinary.
It'd be related to washouts at some point. No, it is a good point. I reckon that Delacombe Park are a very good side, in good nick early on. Everyone's had a really good bat. You can't say the same for Main Ridge. They've only really had 2 guys who've done any batting from that first round.
Now, Daz, I know this isn't got to do with cricket and things like that, but we had a chat off air before we came in about what was going to happen in the last couple of hours of trade week, and it's just been announced Lockie Hunter to the Demons.
Oh, so that's why our man behind the microphone, Peter Susovich, has just walked out. And speaking of strutting like a peacock, our man's feathers right now are as colourful as ever. So a coup for the Demons there.
More colourful than Max Gawn, isn't he?
He is, isn't he?
Trade out a couple and get some pretty handy players, Lockie Hunter, Brody Grundy.
Yeah, handy. Still no key forward. But anyway, we'll move on from the Demons. We'll move on from the Demons, and that is the last game for the district division. We're going to take our final break, and we will be back with the sub-districts right after this.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65 LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match because we live and breathe batteries. Those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyre Road, Mornington.
Hello, I'm Roy Sanderson from RJ Sanderson and Associates. We have created a 10-step roadmap to recovery for businesses. To inquire or get a copy, go to our website rjsanderson.com.au.
A station sponsor.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Welcome back to the final division for the MPCA show, brought to you by Bendigo Bank. That is the sub-districts. The results quickly. AJ, happy again, mate. Your former club at Tutgaruk got over the line against Sky. Tyab defeated by Mount Martha. We're going with more away teams here, Neilo. My goodness. Ballum Park defeated by Balnarring. Pearcedale defeated by Bonio, and Rye defeating Frankston. YCW, any surprises there, AJ?
Yeah, I think Mount Martha defeating Tyab is a bit of a surprise.
Big win by
We think
Mount
Tyab
Martha.
we're going to be pretty strong this year. Yeah. Other than that, not too many other surprises to be honest. It's going to be a pretty even competition, bar probably Balnarring and one or two others, I think, in that comp there, Neil.
Yeah, I reckon there was a great effort by Rye against YC. Firstly, restricting them to 134. We are concerned about YC's batting. But also they lost a couple of early wickets. Hunt held together the first part, and then your mate Pelagarouge steered them home and with 38 not out. So good win by Rye. They're gradually getting better each year, and they will pick up their share of wins, no doubt.
Yeah, the two-day stuff's
going to be
a bit more of a concern.
It's going to.
And I think it's
that's
probably,
going to tell the story for this division.
I think it's more of a concern not just for Rye, but probably for a few more of the
few of the
teams.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about this division after we've seen 2 rounds of 80 over games. Yeah.
Beautiful, I like it. We've talked about a couple of high-ranking games, but we're going to kick things off with first v last at the moment, and that's Balnarring versus Sky. So probably an easier game to tip, Neilo, this one?
Well, I think so because Balnarring are so strong. Interestingly, last year, because Sky were 4th and Balnarring ended up last, but Balnarring looked very good. Lukey Hewitt's got them really well organised. We heard the little snippets of that interview with Brenton Taylor, and the full interview will follow the show after we talk to Bart about weather. But, they're looking strong. It'll be very hard to go against them in any of the games, I would think. And Sky just haven't clicked. They've got a couple of new players in. They've got a couple of ex-international players. But their bowling in particular has been very disappointing this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Sky are sitting last. That's for sure, because they were a much better side last year. Balnarring, country mile favourites at this current point. They've scored over 400 runs easily in
taken
2
19
games.
wickets.
So
things are going beautifully.
Yeah, I think they've got a pretty good squad this year down there at Balnarring. So, easy victory for them against Sky.
Yeah, you did ask the question, AJ. Can a team that finished last go from worst to first?
They could.
In a season, they definitely can.
I think they will.
Yeah, let's move on. Mount Martha v Ballon Park. And
it's good to see Mount Martha up and about there.
Undefeated.
They've brought in some experience and they've got the guys playing really well. They obviously gave some younger kids some experience over the last couple of years and undefeated. They're playing against Ballon Park, who have been a lot better than 6th position, I would have to say, Neil, because to make 160 last week against Balnarring, but go down.
That was a good effort.
It's a great effort. So I don't think this one will be as easy as what we've imagined in the last few years, but I think Mount Martha at home.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I think Mount Martha, they're looking stronger. Streety came back into the side this week and that helps. He's a good bat. Young Walker. Tom Walker has made 20-odd and I think he'll be all right. First time we've really seen much of him, and I think he could be good for them. And I think Stallworthy, the captain, has really got them pretty well organised and ticking along. Good mix of experienced players and some young guys coming along. The Vemus boys are going to improve right through this season. They'll be good as well.
Well, what they've done is they've put the experience into the batting.
Yes.
Haven't they?
Yeah, correct.
So they've relied on the guys with the ball.
Yep.
But then they've put the experience in with the batting, so you're not having the collapses that you see with a young side, like a Rye over the times. They've got 4 or 5 experienced batters that are guiding the young kids through their innings.
Yep, absolutely. So great effort there by Mount Martha so far, and we're going for 3 out of 3, Daz.
Beautiful, I like it. Let's go to Frankston YCW versus Pearcedale, and you mentioned it off the top, Neilo. You're worried about YCW's batting, and looking at the stats, rightly so. 257 runs. It's not the worst in the league. I think it's actually 3rd least at the moment, or 4th least, sorry, as I have a look. But it's not going to plan for them at the moment.
No, not at all. They've come down because they basically didn't know how to win. They had a couple of close games last year they couldn't get over the line on. And sometimes that'll happen to the team that drops down, that you just forgot how to win. That's certainly happened at the moment. They've got 0. Pearcedale, who had a good start last year and ended up with 7 or 8 victories for the year, almost made the 4 in the end.
Pearcedale let a game slip last week.
Against Bonio, you reckon?
Yep. Well, they had him in a.
They had a position where they should have or could have won by.
Should have won.
And Bonio got over the line. Yeah, they weren't quite sure how to finish it.
Well, they leaked it at the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
They had their foot on the throat, but they just didn't execute at the end when the game mattered. So. We'd probably be talking about a different situation if they had got
over the line. Yeah,
they're
right in that game for most of it.
Yeah, you'd be going
had
in
a
with
big chance, missed out
with confidence this week if they had got over the line. And I think what Bonio were 4 for 40.
4 for 40 odd.
Yeah. So and key wickets out.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So it ended up being Jack Beale, and then Cam Williams got 20 not out near the end, just whacked a couple. But that's because they let him get close enough that could happen,
Exactly.
that one or two boundaries could turn the game.
Yeah.
So given all that, though, I think Pearcedale, they've just looked a little bit better so far.
Yeah.
A little bit better with the bat and with the ball. It's hard to have confidence in selecting either of them, but someone's going to have to win it, and I'm going to go with Pearcedale. Of course, they're an away team. Daz.
Absolutely, it's the trend.
I'll go YCW just
Okay.
because it's different.
Yep.
Just to make it a home side.
I like it.
Why
Yep,
not?
I like it against the trend. Let's go to Bonio versus Rye, AJ.
Yeah, Bonio have been good so far. I probably didn't think that they'd be as competitive as they have been at the moment. Obviously, with a lot of their key players out. When you look at their lineup, it is a lot different to years gone by with no Jelly, no Jobling. So
A lot of young kids in the team.
yeah, and I think they'll.
Most
Any
of their
word on there?
overseas recruits should be available. You never know what impact the weather might have on playing schedules. And
Yeah,
things.
so
They've
if-
already
they're
taken
supposed to
19
be available.
wickets.
Yeah,
So good start by the bowling
if
unit.
they can get those two imports in, then that really strengthens the side up.
Yep.
The batting side of things as well. So I think batting's their problem. I think they're always consistent with the ball and they know how to bowl sides out and be tight. But I think it's always having the discipline in their batting and batting for longer periods. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go in a 2-day game.
I think
First up,
they'll probably open up with O'Connor. I would think he was in the middle order, and he's a very good opening bat, as we know. And if you've
Although
a
I
bit of patience about the whole thing, just to get things started.
I think Rye's been their bogey side. The last
Rye has beaten them the last 2 years, bowled them out cheaply twice. The last time Bonio beat Rye was in a 2-day game 3 years ago. So maybe the 2-day game better suits Bonio from that perspective.
I'm going to stick with Bonio.
Yeah, I think Bonio should win this one and at home, but you're right, Rye's knocked them off twice in a row.
Too difficult for you two to disagree twice in a row, but look, I'm just happy there are some here. And we finish with Tutgaruk and Tyab.
Oh, well, we're not going to agree here, I reckon.
No.
I'm going to go for Tyab, and he'll go for Toot. He's got the soft spot for Toot.
Surely he will.
Matty Whelan back in form, and he'll be saying,
Falling
thank
apart
you very
without
much."
him. My goodness.
Well, I certainly haven't.
No, they're going all right. They had a good win last week.
Absolutely, yeah. No, a good win. Obviously, they had a disappointing round one. Much better against Sky last week. I think, look, they had some good guys get some runs. So, but for mine, the disappointing thing was Tyab losing last week. But I'm actually going to go for Tyab to bounce
So we're
back.
both going to go Tyab. That's all right. I was trying to talk him into going for Toot.
I think Tyab have...
They've played good, solid cricket. And even that loss to Mount Martha, they were in that game. It was a good battle, and it was only the last couple of overs.
We've seen the thing with Tutgaruk is that if they lose early wickets,
Yes.
then they're a different
They're
side.
doing all sorts
If
of bother.
the 3 or 4 guys at the top of the order get runs, well, they're almost unbeatable.
Yep.
So the big thing for Tyab is to take early wickets, but I think with their depth through the middle order batting, Tyab will be too strong in a 2-day game.
And I think Tyab's bowling will be a lot tighter than Sky were last week. They obviously let Toot get away. Not that Matty Whelan and Stevie Nelson didn't bat well. They've put on 120 between them or something along those lines. But it'll be a tighter for them. I'm going to go with the away team tired.
Beautiful.
For this one.
I like it. A few disagreements thrown in there, but that is it for the MPCA show, brought to you by Bendigo Bank. A special thanks, of course, to Brenton Taylor, who we caught up with during the week. We hope your team goes well, and if you're in the Somerville area, AJ, you can come and say g'day to the RPP FM crew. You can watch a fantastic first day of 2-day cricket. It's back for the first time in what seems like a decade for the Peninsula, and we hope we can catch you this time next week. Goodbye.